Hey everyone, welcome to another video, and I'm glad you're here because I want to tell you about the first American road trip and how awful it was. Our story starts in the long ago, back when the world was still black and white, literally in some places. But anyways, in 1919, a man you may or may not have heard of, Dwight D. Eisenhower, volunteered himself to join the U.S. Army's it doesn't matter, because he wanted to, quote, go on a genuine adventure. And he was kind of disappointed that he wasn't able to go die in the First World War, so I guess dying in the American wilderness was good enough for him. The trip was kind of doomed to fail, though, because, at this point, only 12% of the country's roads were surfaced in any way. That includes surface with dirt or gravel. I don't know what else they can be surfaced with, if not anything else, just void, just nothing there. And these were maintained by the local population too, who probably have never even seen a car before, so they don't even know what they're prepping for. But let's start in the first month of the worst road trip in history.
In the beginning, in the beginning.
The first day was off to a good start. The convoy departed around 8:30 a.m. and managed to make it to Frederick, Massachusetts in only 7.5 hours. That is a whopping average speed of 6 miles per hour. I mean, Jesus, at this rate, the tortoise is going to give them a run for their money. That's a bad joke. Why did I write that in? Whatever. I'll fix it later. Now, you may be wondering, why the slow speed? Were the roads really that bad? No. And in fact, in the daily log, it is mentioned that the roads were excellent. The true reason behind this delay is because 3 vehicles broke down in some way or another. But hey, maybe the second day was better. Maybe they made a little bit more ground. Maybe they really got into it the second day, really started pushing it. Nope, it only gets worse. They needed to take a 2-hour detour because there were too many unsafe bridges or they had too low of a roof. And the Militor truck, which is a piece of shit on screen now, is pulling pretty much the entire convoy out of the mud. So let's skip ahead and recap the first week so we can just get to some of the more interesting stuff. Because trust me, it gets interesting. There were over 20 instances in which a car broke down, needed to be towed, or in some way spat in the face of Eisenhower and just stopped working. By far, my favorite thing about reading these daily logs is that no matter what it's always like, it's like some shit like 16 cars exploded today. We had to cross a bridge made of twigs held together by scotch tape. Roads, though, were excellent. I swear to God, he had to have been lying. I don't know why, I don't know what for, but there is no way that he saw these unpaved roads and this is a damn good road. Not to mention the worst truck I've ever seen is the only reason this convoy is still going strong. I mean, look at the fucking schnoz on that thing. Can sniff out an engine issue a mile away. But perhaps as the month went along, it got better somehow. Maybe it was just weeding out the weak vehicles. Maybe they were just trying to get into the groove a little bit. And these issues wouldn't persist. Abso-fucking-lutely not. On the second week, we're starting off strong with some more cars breaking down, or just parts breaking for little to no reason. I can imagine that Eisenhower and pretty much everyone else is regretting going on this trip, because even now, they're still averaging 6 miles an hour. We've got 46 miles in 7.5, 62 in 10.5, 57 in 11.5 hours. I mean, to be fair, on that third one, they went through Bedford where they had a band concert and street dancing. They also gave some lame speeches that I don't have the excerpts of, so I can't point out any funny words they said. But this is pretty much standard for the first half of July, with the worst that I saw being 35 miles in 7.5 hours. But after getting out of some of the more populated areas, they did start making some better progress with 83 miles in 9 hours on the 14th. That's pretty impressive considering everything is still exploding or just deciding to not work every few minutes. And they kept that average about 10 miles an hour for the rest of July. However, Some of the more interesting events on this first month that I saw was this one time where a tanker was passing over a small wooden bridge and just both rear wheels fell through. They had to spend some time dragging it out somehow. I'm not sure how, probably prying it with a stick they found and fixing the bridge. But also, when they arrived in Delphos, Ohio, I think I'm saying that right, the mayor presented Eisenhower with a key to the city, which was a water hydrant key. And I think that's pretty funny, because I just imagine the mayor, like, forgetting Eisenhower showing up and just running to find something to give him. So he just, like, finds this water key in his drawers or something. And he just, like, here you go. You have that as a key to the city. You have fun with it. You can flood our streets whenever you feel like it. I wonder if he kept it. And I like to think he immediately gave it to someone else, like Alan giving Mini Mr. Boz to Yellow Guy. Even though it already seems pretty bad, this is only the first month. We've still got another month and a little bit longer. And trust me, it only gets worse. The first incident was on the first of the month where a truck ran off the road, and Eisenhower made a point to specify that it was a wide dirt road to throw some shade on whoever the hell was driving it. And of course, the Smellmobile pulls it out as it's the only somewhat competent vehicle in this convoy. But even with the mighty nose of the Militor, it still took 2 hours to get the truck back on the road. I mean, it seems to me that Eisenhower is getting tired of these guys, because the very next incident he clearly states that it's due to the driver speeding. I mean, I don't blame the guy. Trying to cross the entirety of America would be challenging even today, let alone when tires didn't even have tread. My favorite part of this trip is them going through the mountain estates. Eisenhower stated that it was very winding, dangerous, and tedious, and I'm surprised they didn't have like 200 deaths like it's fucking Hannibal crossing the Alps. That and Eisenhower throwing more shade, like the driver claims that the truck is too hard to steer, which in my eyes means the driver was a little baby boy that couldn't handle a real man's job. Oh, and another time someone should have died, which is like 100 at this point, is when a pulley trying to pull up another car broke and launched steel cables so far into the air with such force that it cut off some tree limbs of a nearby tree. I mean, I'm convinced someone did get caught in that, honestly, but they couldn't find any evidence of him ever existence. Like, it just wiped him off the face of the planet, like that manhole covering. They just gave up and called it a day. I mean, every new thing I learn about this trip just astounds me. Like, this truck fell into a fucking canyon, and they just drag it out, and it's fine. It keeps going. What the fuck were these things made out of? I mean, I know these things were breaking down like every day, multiple times a day, but still, that's impressive to survive a fall from a canyon. I just can't decide if this trip was blessed or cursed. It's just so awful, but also so lucky that it's insane. It's like the car equivalent of the Apollo missions, where everything just so happened to go just enough right to get it through. But luckily, at this point, they're in California, nearly ending their trip, so not much more happens besides, the normal 4 cars breaking down daily. They did finally arrive in San Francisco at 11:30 a.m. on September 6th. So now that we're done looking at the daily log, let's take a look at the report that Lieutenant Jackson sent to Colonel Moody. And firstly, it makes sense as to why Eisenhower was getting so exhausted from this, because this report sheds some light on that. Most of the recruits have never even driven a truck before, and even fewer had military training. This guy was basically working with like 1,000 16-year-olds on their first driving lesson. He is lucky casualties weren't in the hundreds of thousands and they had millions of property damage. And of course, this meant these men were not disciplined. I mean, they were disciplined so awfully, in fact, that it had its own section in the report clarifying how terribly disciplined they were. even stating that they just called each other by their first names, like commanding officer to soldier. Even the company that they were a part of made little to no effort to fix this. No actions were taken to try and make this right. But obviously, the biggest takeaway that Eisenhower had was that we needed a way to efficiently transport military units across the country. And right now, we would not be capable of doing that. So this trip largely inspired President Eisenhower to order the construction of the interstate system, which was approved about halfway through his presidency. And in my opinion, is one of the most impressive engineering feats our country has accomplished. So anyway, that's about the end of the video. I appreciate you all for sticking around, and I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, please consider leaving a like and telling me what you liked about it. And if you didn't like it, tell me what you didn't like about it. And be excited, because in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to be releasing a video on why the War of 1812 was entirely justified. So, if you're excited for that, subscribe and turn on notifications. Thank you and goodbye.